Hi guys, I made this wee video to not only show you how I do my eyes in watercolour but also just for myself. It's good to see my own process and sort of reflect on how I can improve, and there's lots of different ways to do eyes, and I've watched heaps and heaps of videos on YouTube myself and found different things that work for me. So just start off with a really light sketch. This is just from a reference just that I found on the internet of an eye that I liked. I really like the colours of this eye. So yeah, it's really important with watercolour to get it perfect at this stage because it gives you that foundation, whereas with oil and acrylic you can sort of change it halfway through, whereas watercolour, once you start, you're sort of quite committed to it. Just start off super light. There's no need to go into the super dark colours straight away. It's just to give you a good idea of where you're going to go later on. Obviously this is just a short tutorial on the actual eye itself, so I'm not going to put too much work into the skin outside of the eye, just enough for it to make the eye itself stand out. A good thing to remember at this point when you're doing these darker lines and things around the eye is that you can start off really dark because it does fade out quite a lot. It seems a little bit counterintuitive at first because you just want to keep it as close to what the actual colour is, but this is something I found really hard when I first started doing watercolour, is that it's not exactly how you think the colour is going to look straight away. As it dries, it goes a lot lighter. Right, I'm going to actually start on the whites of the eye now. This is some really good advice that I was given when I first started doing eyes as well, is that don't forget that the eye is actually full of really different colours. It's not just plain white, it's got sort of eggshell blue to it, it's got a bit of pink in there, and it's important to remember that it's not just two-dimensional white. It's quite interesting. If you do start to get a little bit uncomfortable with the brightness of the colour, you can just grab a dry brush and just go over the top of it, and it will bring it back to a slightly lighter version of the shade that you were just painting. Don't stress too much if the colours are a little bit off from the actual picture. I kind of like the fact that with watercolour you get this really beautiful bright colour that's not necessarily realistic, but it gives it more character. So at this point your eye is going to start looking a little bit like a zombie, but don't be too worried because it will eventually look good. You just need to build up to that point. Some people start off by putting the colour in immediately and then putting the iris in afterwards, but I kind of like to have the iris in there just so it gives me a reference of where I'm going to put the colour. Another thing to remember as well is to leave the white, or leave the reflection space. I think that's the last thing I always do when I'm doing eyes, just because it's really easy to lose, and with watercolour it just has a more natural look if you leave it till the end, and it gives you that space to create that really beautiful realistic looking reflection. When I'm starting off with the colour of the eye, I try and use quite light and bright colours, just because it gives you a lot of freedom to add in the darks and then still keep this light space underneath, and the overall effect is really cool. So same thing here as with the whites of the eye. The reflection itself is not completely white, so it's got some of the reflection of what the person's seeing in there as well. There's some dark shapes, and there's also the reflection of the person's eyelashes too, so we're going to put that in there. So I've done the darks of the eyes now, adding a little bit of darker colour into where it was really bright before, just to give it a bit more texture, and to try and show all the different kind of dimensions that the colour of the eye has. It's got these sort of strange little patterns on the inside, which are quite cool to try and show. It's probably a little bit darker than the original picture, but I kind of like it like that because it stands out from the rest of the eye. It gives it a little bit more depth. So from here I'm just going to add a little bit more detail to the outside of the eye just to make it stand out, and then we'll be finished. Thanks for watching the video, guys. I hope you found some helpful stuff in there. Let me know in the comments if there's anything you want to see more of. If you'd like to see any more of my artwork, the Instagram link is in the description. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time.